On March 31st, 1993, 28-year-old Brandon Lee was on set in Wilmington, North Carolina filming scenes for the movie The Crow. He was the lead actor, and production was nearing completion, with only a few days of shooting remaining. The scene being filmed required his character to walk through a doorway and be shot by another actor using a prop revolver. The weapon had been prepared earlier by the film's prop department. Unknown to the crew, a critical mistake had already occurred. During earlier filming, a dummy round had been improperly assembled, leaving a bullet lodged inside the barrel of the gun. When the scene was set up later, the revolver was loaded with blank cartridges. While blanks do not contain a full bullet, they still produce an explosive force when fired. As cameras rolled, the actor aimed the revolver and pulled the trigger. The blank discharged, generating enough pressure to force the lodged bullet fragment out of the barrel. The projectile struck Lee in the abdomen. At first, the crew believed the effect was part of the scene. Moments later, it became clear something was wrong. Lee collapsed to the ground and did not respond. Filming stopped immediately as crew members rushed to his side. Paramedics arrived and transported him to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Surgeons operated for several hours in an attempt to repair the internal damage. Despite their efforts, Lee died from internal bleeding caused by the gunshot wound. On July 23, 1982, 53-year-old Vic Morrow was filming a night scene for Twilight Zone, the movie, in Santa Clarita, California. He was performing in a segment that required him to carry two child actors across a river, while explosions went off around them and a helicopter hovered low overhead. The scene was designed to simulate a chaotic wartime escape under fire. Special effects crews had set multiple pyrotechnic charges along the riverbank to create large fireball explosions. As filming began, the helicopter hovered just above the water, flying at a dangerously low altitude to capture the shot. Morrow held the two children in his arms and began moving through the shallow river as explosions detonated behind them. At first, everything appeared to be going according to plan. Then one of the explosions went off too close to the helicopter. The blast disrupted the aircraft's stability. The pilot lost control as the helicopter's tail rotor was damaged by the force. Within seconds, the aircraft began to spin uncontrollably. The helicopter dropped rapidly toward the river, and the two children were directly beneath it. There was no time to escape. The helicopter crashed down onto them, and its rotating blades struck with devastating force. The impact killed all three instantly. The set fell silent as crew members realized what had happened. Emergency responders arrived, but there was nothing they could do. Vic Morrow died from massive traumatic injuries during the crash. On October 12, 1984, 26-year-old John Eric Hexum was on set filming the television series Cover Up at Stage 17 on the 20th Century Fox Studios lot in Los Angeles. He was preparing for a scene involving a .44 Magnum revolver that had been loaded with blank cartridges. Filming had been delayed due to lighting adjustments, leaving Hexum waiting on set between takes. During the downtime, he began handling the prop revolver while interacting with crew members. Blanks do not contain a traditional bullet, but they still produce a powerful explosive discharge at close range. As the delay continued, Hexum reportedly spun the cylinder of the revolver and placed the gun to his head in a moment of joking behavior. He then pulled the trigger. The blank cartridge discharged at point-blank range. The force of the explosion drove fragments and gas into his skull, causing a massive head injury. He collapsed immediately. Crew members rushed to his side as it became clear the injury was severe. Emergency medical personnel transported him to Beverly Hills Medical Center where doctors worked to stabilize him. He underwent surgery to relieve pressure on his brain, but the damage was catastrophic. Hexum remained in a coma for several days. On October 18, 1984, he was declared brain dead. Life support was withdrawn shortly after, and he died from the injury. On September 16, 1985, 53-year-old Art Scholl was flying over the Pacific Ocean near Point Mugu Naval Air Station while filming aerial footage for the movie Top Gun. Scholl was an experienced aerobatic pilot known for precision flying and stunt work. For this sequence, he was piloting a Pitts S-2 camera aircraft equipped to capture in-flight spins and maneuvers. The shot required him to perform a controlled flat spin to simulate an out-of-control aircraft. As cameras rolled, Scholl entered the maneuver and the plane began rotating as expected. At first, everything appeared normal. The aircraft, the descended spinning, maintaining the planned motion for the shot. However, something went wrong during the maneuver. Scholl radioed to the crew, reporting that he was having difficulty recovering from the spin. The aircraft continued descending toward the ocean. Attempts to regain control were unsuccessful. The plane remained locked in the spin as altitude rapidly decreased. Within moments, the aircraft dropped below safe recovery height. It crashed into the Pacific Ocean. Rescue teams were dispatched immediately to the last known location. Debris from the aircraft was found floating on the surface, but Scholl was never recovered. He was presumed dead at the scene. The incident was later noted in the film's closing credits. On February 20th, 2014, 27-year-old Sarah Jones was working as a camera assistant on the set of the film Midnight Rider near Altamaha River Railroad Trestle in Georgia. The production was filming a scene on a railroad bridge without proper authorization from the railway company. Crew members had been setting up equipment directly on the trestle, including a hospital bed used as a prop for the scene. The bridge was narrow with no space for people to step aside if a train approached. At first, filming preparations continued as normal. Crew members positioned cameras and lighting equipment while actors rehearsed their marks. There was no scheduled train activity communicated to the crew at that time. Then, without warning, a freight train appeared on the tracks. It was traveling at high speed and closing the distance quickly. Crew members realized the danger and began scrambling to clear the bridge. There was little room to escape. Some jumped off the sides into the river below. Others tried to run toward either end of the trestle. Equipment was abandoned as people attempted to get out of the way. Sarah Jones was still on the bridge when the train reached the set. She was struck by the train during the impact. Emergency responders arrived shortly afterward, but her injuries were catastrophic. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Several other crew members were also injured during the incident. On April 7, 2002, 45-year-old Harry O'Connor was filming a stunt sequence for the movie XXX in Prague, Czech Republic. The scene required him to double for the lead actor during a high-speed parasailing sequence over a bridge. O'Connor was attached to a harness and being pulled by a speedboat as he flew low over the Vltava River, approaching the Palacky Bridge. The stunt had been rehearsed and was designed for him to glide safely over the water and pass beneath the bridge at speed. At first, everything appeared to be going according to plan. The boat accelerated, and O'Connor lifted into the air, moving steadily toward the bridge. As he approached the structure, timing and positioning became critical. He needed to maintain the correct height and trajectory to clear the bridge safely. As the stunt continued, something went wrong with the alignment. O'Connor was flying too high as he reached the bridge. There was no time to adjust. He collided directly with the stone structure at high speed. The impact was severe and immediately fatal. Crew members witnessed the collision and rushed to the scene. Emergency responders were called, but there was nothing they could do. Harry O'Connor died instantly from the injuries sustained in the crash. The incident highlighted the extreme risks involved in high-speed stunt work and led to increased scrutiny of safety measures for aerial stunt sequences in film production. On September 21, 1978, 25-year-old AJ Bakunas was performing a high-fall stunt during the filming of the movie Steel in Lexington, Kentucky. He was doubling for the lead actor in a scene that required him to jump from the top of a tall building and land on an airbag below. The stunt had been set up with a large inflatable air cushion positioned at ground level to absorb the impact. Bakunas had successfully completed a similar fall earlier in production. For this shot, the height was significantly increased to approximately 96 feet. At first, everything appeared to be in place. Crew members checked the airbag positioning and cameras were set to capture the fall. As filming began, Bakunas stepped off the edge of the building and began his descent. The fall was straight and controlled as he dropped toward the target below. As he neared the ground, something went wrong with the alignment. His body drifted slightly off-center during the fall. Instead of landing squarely on the center of the airbag, he struck near its edge. The airbag did not fully absorb the impact. The force of the fall caused severe internal injuries. Crew members rushed to his side immediately after he landed. He was conscious but in critical condition. Paramedics transported him to a nearby hospital where doctors attempted to treat his injuries. Despite medical efforts, Bakunas died the following day from complications related to the fall. On September 24, 2007, 41-year-old Conway Wycliffe was working during a stunt sequence for the movie The Dark Knight in Surrey, England. He was part of the special effects team responsible for coordinating a high-speed vehicle stunt involving a modified car rig equipped with cameras. Wycliffe was positioned inside a chase vehicle that was being driven at speed to film another car as part of the sequence. The road had been closed for filming, and the stunt required precise timing and coordination between multiple vehicles. At first, everything appeared to be proceeding as planned. The vehicles accelerated along the roadway, while cameras captured the action from close range. As the sequence continued, the chase vehicle carrying Wycliffe began to approach a sharp bend in the road. The driver attempted to maintain speed while navigating the turn. At that moment, something went wrong. The vehicle lost control as it entered the bend. It veered off the road and crashed into a tree with significant force. The impact was severe. Wycliffe sustained critical head injuries during the collision. Emergency services were called immediately, and he was transported to a nearby hospital. Despite medical efforts, he died from his injuries. On October 27, 2011, 26-year-old Kun Liu was filming a stunt sequence for the movie The Expendables 2 at Ognjanovo Dam near Sofia, Bulgaria. He was part of a team performing an action scene that involved an explosion on a small inflatable boat in the water. The stunt required precise timing between the performers and the detonation of explosive charges placed on the boat. At first, everything appeared to be set correctly. The crew prepared the explosive rig, and cameras were positioned to capture the sequence from multiple angles. Liu and another stunt performer took their positions on the boat as filming began. As the scene played out, the boat moved into position, and the explosives were triggered. The explosion occurred, but something went wrong with the blast. It was significantly more powerful than expected. The force of the explosion tore through the boat and the surrounding area with extreme intensity. Liu was caught at the center of the blast. He sustained massive injuries from the explosion. Crew members nearby were thrown back by the force, and the set was immediately thrown into chaos. Emergency responders rushed in and pulled Liu from the water. Despite immediate medical attention, his injuries were fatal. He was pronounced dead shortly after. On August 14, 2017, 40-year-old Ajoy Estege Harris was performing a motorcycle stunt during the filming of the movie Deadpool 2 in Vancouver, Canada. She was doubling for a character in a scene that required her to ride a powerful motorcycle through city streets at speed. The production had closed sections of the road for filming, and cameras were positioned along the route to capture the sequence. The stunt involved accelerating down a straight stretch before navigating a turn and coming to a controlled stop. At first, everything appeared to be proceeding as planned. Harris mounted the motorcycle and began the run, gaining speed as she moved through the set. As she approached the end of the route, something went wrong. The motorcycle did not slow down as expected. It crossed the sidewalk and struck the glass window of a nearby building. The impact threw her from the bike with significant force. Crew members and bystanders rushed toward the scene as the set was immediately shut down. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but Harris had sustained fatal injuries. She was pronounced dead at the scene. On September 5, 2015, 32-year-old Olivia Jackson was filming a motorcycle stunt for the movie Resident Evil. The final chapter near Hartbeesport Dam. She was doubling for the lead actress in a high-speed sequence that required her to ride a motorcycle directly toward a camera mounted on a crane arm. The stunt was designed so that the camera would lift out of the way at the last moment, allowing her to pass safely underneath while maintaining speed. The timing between the rider and the crane point was critical. At first, everything appeared to be set correctly. The road had been cleared, and the camera rig was positioned over the path of the motorcycle. As filming began, Jackson accelerated down the road, heading straight toward the crane arm. As she approached, something went wrong with the timing. The camera rig did not lift as expected. Jackson rode directly into the metal arm at speed. The impact was severe. She was thrown from the motorcycle and sustained catastrophic injuries. Crew members rushed to her side, and emergency services were called immediately. She was transported to a nearby hospital in critical condition. Doctors worked to save her life, but her injuries were extensive. Jackson survived the crash but suffered life-threatening trauma, including severe arm injuries that later required amputation, along with multiple fractures and long-term complications. On July 12, 2017, 33-year-old John Berniker was performing a stunt during the filming of the television series The Walking Dead at Raleigh Studios. The scene required him to double for a character and fall from a balcony approximately 20 feet onto a safety pad below. The stunt had been rehearsed and the landing area was set with padding designed to absorb the impact. At first, everything appeared to be in place. Cameras were positioned and the crew prepared to capture the fall. As filming began, Berniker stepped off the balcony and dropped toward the landing area. The descent was controlled as he fell toward the pad. As he neared the ground, something went wrong with the positioning. He missed the center of the safety pad. Instead of landing fully on the padding, he struck the edge and then impacted the concrete floor beside it. The force of the fall caused severe head trauma. Crew members rushed to his side immediately. Emergency medical personnel arrived and transported him to Atlanta Medical Center, where doctors worked to stabilize his condition. Despite medical efforts, Berniker died from his injuries the following day. On October 21, 2021, 42-year-old Helena Hutchins was working as the director of photography on the set of the movie Rust at Bonanza Creek Ranch. The production was filming a scene inside a church set that involved the use of a prop revolver. The weapon had been prepared by the film's armorer and was later handed to actor Alec Baldwin. He had been told the gun was cold, meaning it was not supposed to contain any live ammunition. The scene required Baldwin to draw the revolver and aim it toward the camera as part of a rehearsal. Hutchins was positioned behind the camera, setting up the shot and framing the angle. At first, everything appeared to be proceeding normally. Crew members were adjusting lighting and camera placement, while Baldwin practiced the movement with the firearm. As the rehearsal continued, Baldwin handled the revolver and pointed it toward the camera's direction. Then, something went wrong. The weapon discharged. A live round was fired from the revolver. The bullet struck Hutchins in the chest and continued through, injuring director Joel Souza, who was standing behind her. Hutchins collapsed immediately. Crew members rushed to assist as it became clear the injury was severe. Emergency services were called, and she was airlifted to University of New Mexico Hospital. Despite medical efforts, she died from the gunshot wound. Souza was transported to another hospital and later recovered. Investigations later revealed that a live round had been present in the firearm. On June 15, 1928, large-scale filming was underway for the silent film Noah's Ark at the Warner Brothers Studios backlot. The production was creating a massive flood sequence, intended to depict the biblical story with unprecedented realism. Hundreds of extras had been hired to portray crowds caught in rising waters. The set included large water tanks, scaffolding, and heavy rigging designed to release thousands of gallons of water onto the stage. At first, preparations appeared routine. Extras were positioned across the set, some standing on elevated platforms, while others were placed at ground level where the water would surge through. Many of them were not professional stunt performers and had limited understanding of the risks involved. As filming began, cameras rolled and the water release system was activated. A powerful surge of water rushed onto the set, knocking extras off their feet and sweeping them into debris and structures. What was intended to look dramatic quickly became uncontrollable. The force of the water was far greater than anticipated. Extras were slammed into wooden beams, scaffolding, and each other. Some were trapped beneath collapsing set pieces. Others were pulled under the water with no clear path to escape. Crew members struggled to regain control as chaos spread across the set. People were shouting and attempting to reach those caught in the flood. Emergency assistance was delayed due to the scale of the production and the confusion during filming. When the water finally settled, multiple individuals had sustained serious injuries. Several extras were found unconscious after being submerged or struck by debris. Reports from the time indicated that at least 3 people died as a result of the sequence. On January 9, 1981, stunt performer Jack Tyree was working a sequence for the movie The Sword and the Sorcerer at a filming location in California. The scene required him to perform a high fall while rigged with a special effects system designed to simulate an explosion. The stunt involved jumping from a height while explosive charges detonated around him, creating the visual effect of a blast throwing his body through the air. At first, everything appeared to be set correctly. The rigging was prepared, explosive squibs were placed on his body, and safety lines were attached to control his descent. As filming began, Tyree initiated the stunt, stepping off the platform as the charges detonated. The explosion effect triggered as planned, and his body was propelled outward. For a brief moment, the sequence appeared to be unfolding as intended. Then something went wrong with the rigging system. One of the safety lines failed to control his fall properly. Instead of slowing his descent, the force pulled him off balance and disrupted his trajectory. He was thrown into an uncontrolled fall. Tyree struck the ground with significant force. Crew members rushed to him immediately as filming stopped. It was clear the impact had caused severe injuries. Emergency medical personnel were called to the scene, but the injuries were catastrophic. He was pronounced dead shortly afterward.